about 20 years to prepare for that.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I'm sorry, what was it?
One of them has had plenty of time to prepare for all of this to
Absolutely.
make sure he's doing everything right.
Right. One company, obviously, they've been a towing partner of the city of Taylor for a long period of time.
Sure.
They have an advantage because they know the expectations. I think to be fair to the other two, they have to become compliant before we begin. I mean, that's a requirement in the RFP.
I'm not feeling that the RFP is a contract. I mean, the RFP states in several places that it's designed to award a contract. Right. It's designed to sign a contract. It's got a no date on it. It's got a scoring system. As someone who worked on towing in 14, 15, and 16, I'm not advocating for keeping the same contract. I'm advocating for writing a new contract that contains all the provisions that we're talking about. And if we need release clauses, if we need to control subcontracting, if we want to give heavy to one and light to another, that's what goes into a contract. This document is a purchasing document designed to solicit bids, which was intended to then award a contract to a successful bidder or bidders. That's how I've been doing it. If that wasn't the vision, that's fine. I've never considered this to be a contract, and it's not worded to be a contract. It talks about awarding a contract. It has old dates in it, and I don't know if it gives us all the protections that we're talking about that we could put into a new contract.
One more thing. I'd just like to read a little something here. This is reference to Harriet Towing. This came from an insurance company and investigator. This was just a list of things that they were wanting.
Are we going to read
No,
all the
it's just...
stuff we've been presented tonight about all the towers?
Sure. So, let's see. You want me to read everything? I got a lot of stuff here.
I don't think it's
Okay,
appropriate if you read everything.
Okay,
that we
basically
presented
what it
tonight.
is, we keep talking about this, but again, we keep talking about what these companies have done in the past. And like I said, if that's what you want to do, it's not a problem. But it's awful funny that we get some companies highly investigated by insurance companies, but nobody really cares.
Well, I think, Councilman, to your point, the current contract, as I mentioned earlier, it has a lot of latitude in it, and I think that's part of the problem with what the city of Taylor gets put into a position of trying to defend it. I'll give you a great example. Because the contract is 10 years old, 10 years ago they had a hook and drag towing concept, and there's a charge in there for that. There's a flat fee for a tow. And then the intent was, if a flatbed showed up, there was another fee for a flatbed. Well, as technology changed, those two kind of merged, and the flatbed became the tow truck. So a lot of the cases that we see where people are complaining about tow bills, it has a lot to do with those charges layered on every bill, even though only one vehicle likely showed up. Now, to be fair, we don't investigate every tow, so I can't say to you that's the case for every complaint. But in the vast majority of them, that's one of the issues we deal with. In this proposal, whether you call it a contract or an agreement, it spells out that there are no charges permitted other than what's on this schedule. And if there are charges that occur, they would either be warned with a corrective action, or possibly suspended, or possibly terminated, depending on how severe or significant it is. We've seen some, including that bill. I can't defend that bill, and I couldn't when that gentleman contacted me. We sent him the contract and said, what we suggest is, here's the contract, go back and pay what's in the contract, and but that also opened our eyes to the fact that we needed some improvement.
Which all could be put into a new contract, including the pricing.
One question. Who's going to track all this? Who's going to maintain that they're keeping and towing properly and keeping the numbers properly?
I think it says in there that we have the right to audit periodically.
Who's going to audit?
Well, we would have to work out that, but likely the finance department in cooperation with the police department.
Which would put more problems on the police department.
Problems aren't going to go away. I mean, we got to make sure we have good
That's right.
partners and strict rules in place.
There's more people to audit.
I have a quick one. I noticed that it's a 1 year to 1 year extensions. And like he's mentioned, we can revoke this contract agreement, whatever you want to call it, whenever we want to. So I guess what is the strategy of saying it's a 1 year contract versus a 3, 6, 9 year contract, whatever it is, because ultimately this council can change it or do whatever they want with it. I mean, so I guess the year, I guess where are you coming from that number?
With 1 year?
Yeah.
We're just being consistent with most of the other contracts. I mean, most of them are 1-year contracts with optional renewals. You know, that just, it gives us more control, especially with something this is a little different. It gives us, if we have to amend it or modify it, it allows us to do that, bringing it back to you guys. There may be changes we have to make to it. I would be very hesitant to any kind of long-term contract. We're just coming out of a very, very long contract that, I mean, I think the initial contract was three-year terms, essentially 9 years, and then we're in one more extended year. You know, you're essentially 10 years old in this proposal.
Yeah, I guess just my point is, you know, whatever the term may be, if this is a contract that can be changed or modified or, you know, so I guess the number to me seems to be insignificant, so.
Well, but it isn't, because it does bring accountability. I mean, if the towing companies know that they're gonna come back each and every year
Sure.
and be evaluated, I think it brings greater accountability to the process.
I appreciate that.
I like the idea of the pricing,
Yeah.
definitely, because me as a citizen, I would want to make sure that I know I'm only going to get charged this, and I'm not going to get overcharged. But I also agree with Dan, if there's a contract right now, you know,
The current contract had pricing attached to it. The
Right.
pricing was revised in 14. We're going to further revise it. I think everybody, if these vendors are willing to agree to this pricing, then that's what they should charge, but it should be part of the contract. I don't know how many RFPs are treated as contracts in the city. I'm just not used to that concept, especially under these conditions where it's got language about doing a contract and it's got expiration dates in it.
Sure.
I think we gain more control by having a contract and putting all these provisions into it, whether it be pricing, whether it be subcontracting, whether it be auditing the books, and so on and so forth. The old contract definitely needs to go away, but not as a replacement with an RFP, but with a new and improved contract. We've got contracts for all these other vendors. Any contract that we sign, garbage, rubbish, anything that have extended terms on it, we've always asked, since we've been on council, that if we have an approved 3-year with 2 3-year extensions, they have to come before us. We can control all that through a contract like we have with any other vendor in the city.
Well, that's not necessarily true, because we have rates that are approved, like with the concrete and the asphalt. They don't have necessarily contracts. It gets bid out, and then the rates get approved, and there is no contract per se that's tied to that.
I was comparing to garbage, but we just look for a new contract for, you know, not using the old pricing without having some new attachment to it. So I definitely don't think that an RFP is a contract, and I wouldn't vote for an RFP as a contract. I would put all the provisions that we've talked about, whether we like them because they're in the RFP or because we got better ideas, and as the RFP suggests, pick a bidder or bidders and negotiate that new contract with them. That's what these people bid on, assuming that they were going to be awarded a contract. That's what the RFP says.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mayor?
if you guys want to consider approving the vendors in the RFP, we will prepare a contract for you guys for the next meeting. But again, it's in our best interest to protect the city of Taylor, not the vendors.
How could we allow a vendor to enter into a contract with us that protects them more than us?
We
Why
have
would
in
we
the
allow-
past.
why
Not
would we
this
do that?
council, but the city of Taylor has in
Yeah,
the
we're
past.
better than that. We wouldn't allow that to happen.
But what I'm saying in towing, you know, I mean, there are a lot of cities that don't have contracts at all. They just have approved rates. I don't want to get tied too much into a contract that handcuffs the city of Taylor when it's
I
not
agree.
required.
I agree.
Under the law, it is just simply not required. So what my desire is to bring forward a program that gives us the greatest control and hold the vendors accountable. But if this body wants a contract, what we would request is approve what's in front of you, and then we will finalize the contracts and bring it back to the next meeting.
Is there anything else on this?